VATV, Vietnamese American Arizona Television.
Hello and welcome to VATV Real Estate Talk Show with Scott Barlowe and Linh. Investing can be tricky, especially for beginners. However, with the right knowledge and understanding, you can achieve success in your investment. Our talk show is designed to bring out great topics for investors like you. We hope you enjoy the show and welcome to submit any feedback during and after the show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the VATV Real Estate Talk Show with Mr. Scott Barlowe and Linh. How are you?
I'm
Scott?
good. How are you today?
Okay, doing well. So we have a few news that we want to share to our audience about the real estate market.
What's going on in the market?
Yes.
You bet. You know, one of the things is that everybody's well aware that the interest rates have stayed up, and it's unlikely that they're going to come down very much, probably for several months. In fact, one of the board members for the Federal Reserve, he actually came out this week and he made some comments about it. Some of his comments is that he's really surprised, despite the high interest rate, that the housing costs remain as high as they do. And one of the things that he kind of attributed to it is the huge amount of illegal immigration that's coming across the border. That a lot of those people, they're being put into some type of housing. And so artificially that is adding to the inflation rate and keeping the cost of housing inflated and up. He's predicting that it may be into the fourth quarter now before we see rates decline. Although it looks like at this point that things have stabilized, it's highly unlikely that we're going to see any more rate changes where they go up. The interesting thing is that I know market-wise, there seems to be kind of a settling in, and people just are beginning to accept that we're probably going to see someplace around 7% for interest rates, typically for homes, for at least for the foreseeable future. So with that in mind, there's still folks out there buying. In fact, we may sell just about as many, if not more, homes than we did in 2023. So. But bear in mind, your dollar's not going to buy you as much just because of those higher interest rates. So if the general consensus is among the real estate professionals is if you see a home, buy it, especially if you can get a new home and you can get the buy downs that some of the builders are doing. Take advantage of that now. It's likely into 2024 that we're going to see a decline in interest rates. Once they do decline, then go ahead and refinance at a lower rate. But lock in at that rate. And speaking of which, the rates last week, they were trending about 6.93%, with just kind of an average across the market on what the interest rates were. This week we've ticked up a little bit, and we're just a smidge over 7%. You know, I believe it was 7.06% when I checked today on where average rates are.
30 years fixed?
For a 30-year fixed mortgage, yes.
When you're talking about the interest rate here, is a 15-year always less than the
almost 30? Always the 15-year is quite a bit less. And that, of course, is because, you know, number one, it's not as risky a loan because it's not as protracted a loan for the banks. But you're also paying in more every month because you're paying in a greater amount of principal.
Principal, yeah. Like whoever want to retire early, they can like they say, okay, they only have like few years, like 5 years or whatever. Then they do want to pay off earlier so that they don't have to worry about.
One of the arguments for purchasing a home, you know, say you purchase a home now versus renting. You purchase a home now, you've locked it in, and you've locked in the cost of that home where it's at today. If you're renting, there's nothing that precludes you from paying a higher rental amount year upon year upon year. And I know as a landlord, I look at it from the standpoint of, you know, I'm coming up on end of lease period for some of my tenants. And, you know, I know that we've kind of slowed down a little bit as far as rental increases, but I may still go ahead with a modest rental increase.
Right. Yeah, that's true. But like, let's say if when we do investment, we don't necessarily own that piece of property free and clear, that benefit, right? Because
That's true.
You need the expense. Right?
That's true. And you know, as you're well aware, interest is one of those expenses that you can deduct for a valid business expense.
That's true.
So, you know, by purchasing it now, you know, think of it as a purchase in this point in time, and as the values keep going up, you've purchased it down here, but what happens with the value of the property over time? The value of the property also rises. So you're down here with your purchase, but the value has risen over time.
Yeah.
So that becomes kind of your hedge against inflation by owning it. You're always better off owning real estate than renting.
Yeah. So I think like in any time, any specific time, buying the real estate, always like something tangible and something that you can see, and you can see the value and it went up, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So we like I see you say like people will start building new complex, new houses, even though the interest rate rise.
And that's just that's one thing about it. If you look at some of the surrounding areas, you know, on the outer skirts of the Phoenix metro area, there are large housing tracts going up. The land was purchased years ago, and so it becomes affordable for those builders to just continue to build. I'll give you an example. Apache Junction is a town that's got a permanent population of about 40,000 people. Granted, in the wintertime, they receive a lot of winter visitors, and for practical purposes, the population increases to about 85,000. But at this time, there is a large, well, it's about a four plus square mile tract that D.R. Horton as well as Brookfield Development purchased. So the infrastructure's already gone in, and they're building homes at a great clip down there. The roads have been changed, water lines, power lines, all that type of stuff has been brought down there. And so as you drive through it, almost on a daily basis, you're seeing the desert transformed into a big subdivision. And they're anticipating within the next 4 years or so to have a total of over 10,000 new homes built in that area. So, I mean, 10,000 new homes, you figure that you've got close to 3 people per home. Add that to the population, that's nearly doubling the size of the existing population in Apache Junction.
Wow.
And so there will be additional developments, there will be additional commercial developments down in that area along that same corridor, down at State Route 24 and Ironwood. The LG plant is coming right along, and I counted the other day when I drove by there, and there were 8 very, very large cranes down there that were setting steel girders, and that plant, they were anticipating having it done in 2026 and bringing in someplace close to 2,700 jobs.
I see that, you know, like if everybody, if they interested into investment, they should look at that Apache Junction, because like the price not that as high, but it's close right by the Mesa, right by the border of the, you know, like
exactly right. Yep. Yeah. Apache Junction borders Mesa.
And then it started rebuilding. I mean, like new house,
brand new homes,
new home, and with the low price and all that. I really like it.
I wouldn't call them low prices, but that's where some of the lowest prices are
compared to the Mesa if you go straight. It's just right at the border, so people can start looking into that. So
there is opportunity out there, and the builders will work with you as far as financing, because they have their own sources of financing set up, and oftentimes they will do a rate buy down to help make it a little more affordable for first time buyers of their properties.
Right. Yeah. So and then like when people are thinking about the investment, you think like right now, you talk about houses, how about the commercial? You think commercial?
Commercial as well. And once again, I think that commercial slowed down a little bit because of the rise in interest rates.
Yeah.
But there's two areas right now where the city, the Phoenix metro area is leading the country. One is an industrial space. And just like we're done talking about the LG battery plant that's going in,
right.
There's a lot of other industrial spaces that have gone in around the Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport, as well as on the west side of town over near Buckeye, Tolleson, those types of places. Because they need warehousing, they need places where you can do some type of heavy industry, auto repair, those types of things. And now we're getting more high-tech industry coming in. Taiwan Semiconductor has come in with their plants over on the northwest side of Phoenix. So there's a lot of activity going on. You know, one of the things that happened after the Great Recession in 2008 is that the Maricopa Association of Government, as well as the state, they did not want to keep seeing the ups and downs, the peaks and valleys that we had for years with real estate. So they made a concerted effort to go out and start recruiting some of those higher tech companies to come in and bring jobs.
Right.
And so as we get more industry like that comes in and those jobs are there, what we're seeing is we're not seeing the extreme spikes of up and down. You know, back in 2008, one of the problems was there was a lot of housing out there and there were a lot of things being sold to investors, but there weren't enough people to live in all those homes. And that was one of the things that they had a great problem with in some of the outlying communities. Now those homes, have, you know, they've long since been picked up. People have moved into them, and now we have even more people coming in. So that's where our housing shortage is here, and it's not going to be alleviated in the near future. This is something that's going to be handled over a number of years. So there is going to remain an opportunity for people to buy, to invest, especially if you're starting off with a single family home or a condo or something along those lines as your first investment.
There's something very interesting that I find out. You know, in Texas, is that Texas? Yeah, maybe Texas. There's a group of people, and they bought like a vacant lane, like the whole like a really a lot. They build a house in there, and they make themselves a town for themselves. You know, like whoever want to stay in there, the same language. You know, like they talk the same language. They do like regular traditions to their country, just in there. Whoever live in there, very interesting. Yeah, they build like houses there, and this like a we're talking about the village. Yeah, village like long. I found out. Wow, anybody here? If you guys want to think about that, you know, sometimes we with large family, who know, you know, our friend get to know, and then they say, oh, when I get old, we can live close to each other, or something. And that's they can buy like a piece of land, you know, like build a house. Right?
Well, we've certainly seen that with some of the retirement communities where they've done the same type of thing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So there's the retirement. They when they purchase that one, they have a lower price for that.
Oftentimes
right?
they do.
Oftentimes, right? But they only apply for they live in there, but they cannot like bring the younger in there.
That is correct. Oftentimes with the 55 plus communities, you know, they're designed and they are set up so that you don't have younger residents in there. Think about schools. So you don't have the obligation of schools in there. One of the things in a lot of retirement communities, of course, is they do have a lot of amenities, golf courses, swimming pools, all kinds of activities. Yes,
for the community.
And frequently they're in gated communities. So you have upkeep of those streets within the community. So the purchase price may be pretty reasonable when you first get in, but you always need to pay attention to what are your HOA fees.
Yeah, because what if it increase, right?
Yes.
They can increase.
They can increase all the time.
There's no cap to it. Right?
Yep. I was at a retirement community just shortly before the show today. Yeah. And You know, this particular, it's in Mesa, near Power Road in Southern, and it's pretty well known to folks, but they're a very forward-thinking community. They take great care of the community in general. Right now, they're actually coming in and tearing up old roads, putting in and paving new roads.
Oh,
so
they're more expensive.
It's an expense, but you know, it sure beats having your road just turn into gravel. And, you know, the people that live there, they have an expectation that the community is going to care for it and maintain their values.
Right, exactly. Well, that's a good thing. If you in the community that they doing that, they care about those, they save the money to do the landscape or anything surrounding us, like, then it's worth the money that you pay for.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, like I see some of the association, they collect money, but I hardly see they do anything.
That's quite true.
Upgrading or whatever outside. So that's the thing. When we purchase like a unit or something, then you can go and drive around and look at even that have a good value, but the association fee, and then within that association fee, what do they do? Because you don't want to go into the street that is bumping and all
exactly
that.
Right.
And
right.
Trash can was like fall all over. You know,
right.
That's very deep value.
You know, oftentimes we talk about doing your due diligence.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at buying in a community that has an HOA, by all means, get a copy of the HOA, the CC&Rs, the HOA rules and regulations. Yeah. You can even ask for their finances. You want to make sure that they're solvent. You want to see what they're spending their money on. And, you know, there's a lot of variations in HOAs. Some of the HOAs, they pay for the expense of having roofs replaced. They pay for the expense of having the exterior painted. Not all, but some. Right. And in some cases, they pay for all of the landscaping. And so, you know, if you've
that's important for the outside.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right.
So you need to know what they're doing. You need to know that they're being responsible with the money that they get from their members.
That's true. Yeah. Okay. So when we let me see for the investment, it just come across me, and then I look because I'm not in the right mind yet. I have my dental things, and then there's not yet. Recover.
You've had a tough go of it.
Yeah. So like last time when we can pick up some of the things. Oh, I remember now. There's one audience was mentioned. He has because he keep travel, and then there's he rented the house to somebody, and that person keep living there but never pay the money. And we come back, they just don't pay. So what should we do?
Well, in a case like that, I always go back to the first thing is, how did you get the person in there? You want to develop good procedures for how you screen tenants. You want to have a lease, a good written lease, and you want to have something in that lease that addresses that. And here, of course, in the state of Arizona, we also have the Arizona Landlord-Tenant Act. So the lease and the Landlord-Tenant Act, they should kind of work together and have parts that fit together so that you can address it. If someone hasn't paid their rent, most leases include a provision that after 5 days the rent is late and that there is an increased fee for that. As a landlord, and I've had that incident with previous tenants, I give them a 5-day notice. And I might add, there's a couple of law firms out there that do a lot of eviction proceeding, both commercial as well as residential. As a landlord, I've gone through my own eviction proceedings, but like I said, you need to go through some of these steps. First one is you need to go ahead and give them a notice that they need to get caught up. Then there's a second notice that you need to do. Then you can file with the local court and bring them in for a hearing in front of the magistrate. If the magistrate finds that they haven't paid, he can require them to pay. if after a bit of time they still haven't paid, he can order that you can be signed up, that they have to move out. And if they're not out, then you can have the constable actually come out and lock them out of the property.
Yeah.
But usually within 30 days, you can get most of the people out of there if they have not paid rent. I've found that over the years, I've had tenants who either had health issues or a death in the family or something unusual. And it's not an every month occurrence. In those occasions, I've kind of weighed what kind of a tenant they've been, and maybe possibly let them, give them a little bit of forbearance for one particular month. But I would definitely not allow somebody a second month. If they haven't gotten caught up after the first month. Because think about this for a moment. Say you've got somebody that owes you $1,000 a month for rent, and they have difficulty getting that paid that first month. And now you moved into the second month, and you've got fees, you've got late fees and everything else. Now you've got a second month. If they couldn't pay the $1,000 for that first month, how are they going to pay $2,100 or $2,200 to get caught up? It's
difficult.
There's rare occasions where that happens, but it's few and far between. Most folks, if they get into that kind of situation, they're just not going to recover and get you caught up. So you need to stay on top of them, know what their circumstances are, but by the same token, remember, it's a business. It's your money and you're wanting to make a profit off your investment. You're not there to provide housing to somebody that isn't paying.
Right. So like I think like if she has more questions about the form or something, she can always reach out to you.
Absolutely.
And you can help her with
Absolutely.
That, right?
And like I said, I've done it myself. There's a number of steps to do. A lot of folks don't like to have to go to court and talk to the judge. I don't mind. I've done that. But there is a couple of law firms that specialize in that, and they'll do all the legwork for a fee. Yeah,
right. So if you are seeking anybody, but like get out the headache for you, it's up to whatever like you want to do, get your money back and get the house back so that you can leave to somebody else that pay you, then you can get the resources and call to Mr. Barlowe, Scott Barlowe, and then he can advise you or whoever the attorney that could do that, for
absolutely
for the to take off the problem. And the like you say, like when you screen and we always have to think like, oh, we give people a chance to
absolutely
do things, but business is like if you lose like 3 months, then it's
hard to recover
the interest. I mean the loan for the
exactly
mortgage.
Right. If you have somebody that's not in the house or is not paying for 3 months, it's hard to recover that amount of income.
Right.
And
exactly.
so the quicker that you can get them out, the better. Going back to the screening though, just like with a mortgage company, they screen who they're going to give mortgages to.
Right.
That screening process is reducing your risk. And there are places out there where you can have the tenants get credit reports, you can have them get their rental history, and you can have that paid for by the tenant where you don't have to pay for it yourself. So that becomes another strategy for doing it. But best to do and make sure that you're properly looking at the people before they even walk in the door.
That's true. Yeah. So when you mentioned about the financing, that they need to borrow the loan when they bought they buy the property. Don't spend like all the money like free and clear, right? Because you invest, you need to have some expense.
That's exactly right. Yep.
Yeah. And then like did you mention something about fix and flip? Is that a good thing?
Fix and flip. Fix and flip to me is not a truly an investment.
Okay.
I look at an investment as something that you're holding long term. And when I say long term, generally the IRS is looking at real estate. You're going to hold it at a minimum of about 2 years. So if you think about it, and over the years, I've known gentlemen who have built their own houses. And so they built their own houses from scratch. They hired the contractors, did all the work, live in it for a minimum of 2 years, and then they can turn around and sell it. So that becomes an investment. It becomes their primary home. And some of the different tests that the IRS has is how long have you lived in that home for it to be considered a primary residence. On the other hand, when we're talking about fix and flip to me is more of it's more like you're buying a job.
Okay.
So you buy a house that needs work, and a lot of the mechanizations that you're doing are very similar to buying a house that an investor or a regular primary homeowner would do, because you're getting a loan, you're doing the inspections, you're making repairs on it, but you're not holding it for a long period of time. And oftentimes, the fix and flip folks, they will buy a property and they have short-term hard money loans. And the loans, the interest rates are much higher,
right?
Sometimes 12 to 14% in some cases, but they're only holding that property for anywhere from 90 days, which is the minimum, because some of the federal loans will not allow a homeowner to come in and buy a house that's been flipped if the previous owner hasn't owned it for at least 90 days. So that becomes another factor you have to pay attention to. But generally speaking, you're probably looking someplace 90 to 180 days that these guys are holding a note on a fix and flip house. And like I said, so you're doing it, to me, it's like buying a job. So they get the house, they buy the house, they get it all fixed up, they turn around, they sell it. So how is that property treated? If that property was real estate that we were invested in, we'd be looking at that as capital gains. But if that house has only been held for less than a year, any of those profits are treated as income. So they're taxed at income. So now you're going to have to pay Social Security on it. You're going to have to pay personal income tax on it. So those types of things add up. I'm not saying that's not a bad model for some people, but by no means should you ever think of that as an investment.
Because like if they do like a flip and fix like that, they gotta continue doing it, because after they selling it or something, they can use the money to buy, and then it mean that if it's a company, then they can file it as like a what do you call it, 1031 exchange or something, like use the money, invest.
Well, what I would say on those is because they aren't holding it as long as you're in for investment real estate. So what you need to do is perhaps talk to an accountant and structure a business so that money becomes part of the operating capital for that business. Because it's very short term. It's almost like a business that does, say you sell widgets. And you get the materials to make the widgets, you sell the widgets, and now you need to buy more material to make more widgets. So it's that type of a business cycle, and it becomes an expense. The purchase of the house at that point becomes part of the expense, and then of course the selling is your profit. But you're buying materials to increase the value of that home before you sell it again.
Labor, not a job.
But like I said, it becomes more like a business, more like buying a job.
Like a job, How about like you mentioned the group of people who invested for you. Like if one individual doesn't want to control everything, so that group will come in and do everything, like invest for you, like buy the piece of things and invest.
There's several different strategies that you can go through. One of which I've mentioned a number of times is a REIT, and that's a real estate investment trust. And what that does is that is a dedicated business. It's got professional people, both realtors who evaluate property for purchase. And mind you, once again, because it is an investment, they're purchasing that property and they're holding it long term. I know of a REIT that has a very nice shopping center over off Val Vista and US 60. And they've owned that for a long, long time. Wow. And they manage it. They manage it very professionally. They have property managers. They have leasing agents so that they're bringing retail people in. They're making sure that the building's properly maintained. And there was additional land that they owned. They're even going through the process of developing that land so that they have additional properties. So that particular REIT, I know they're in Texas and a number of other states. Yeah. They don't just focus on just one city, but
everywhere, right?
But in a lot of different occasions. And like I said, what they do is they really do a good in-depth analysis just to see what the long-term value of that property would be to have and to hold.
So then maybe sometime when they mention the piece of property, like if the person invests in it, they don't even like actually see that thing, but we'll see the profit come in.
Correct.
Yeah, because for those who didn't want to get involved too much with
that's one aspect
management,
of it.
with the
And there's different other legal entities that buy property that you can be involved in and not have to be actively managing it. General partnerships, where you have a group of people. Yeah. And they go together and they purchase a property and they have a designated partner who is overseeing the operations of that entity and make sure that everything is working properly. And then, of course, they manage the property. They make sure that it's properly cared for, that the tenants are properly screened, that you're getting the types of activities that generate income for not just for the general partner, but for all the other partners.
Okay, I remember one of the viewer also mentioned something, and then I think because they listened to the show where you mentioned the violation of the court cases, all the things. So this is about let me see. So the inspector came and inspect the apartment because the renter was reported that this didn't fix or didn't do anything for the complex or something. So then when the management or the landlord, I don't know who they represent there, but they come out and then look like they get another false, like they try to bribe the inspector. How heavy that is if they find out.
Well, bribery, of course, is a crime.
Okay.
So I mean,
that's why we need to mention that out.
It's not, and bribery is not just it's not specific to real estate, but bribery of a government official is a crime, and it harms all of us, because when you're bribing a public official, they're essentially either looking the other way or giving somebody else favoritism. They certainly aren't looking out for the general public. And oftentimes they're putting the money in their pocket, and they're criminals on their own right if they take and put money in their pocket, and the people that bribe them are criminals because they're violating the public trust.
So much risk. Let's say you don't know the person, you don't know that inspector will accept it or not, and you give money. If you just do that, then like you get caught already right there for another.
Possibly. Yeah, possibly.
See? So that's why that's important. When the person mentioned that, is that heavy? I go, I think so, but I'll let you talk about it.
And I hate to say it, but there are certain towns that have, throughout the United States, that have had a history of public corruption where there is bribery that goes on, and it's a shame. It shortchanges the general public, and in some cases, you think about what kind of damage can be done. Imagine you've got an inspector on a building, and he receives a bribe, and he's looking the other way, and a defect is incorporated into the building itself. And maybe you don't have a problem for a year or 2 years, and maybe 3 or 4 years. But eventually, suppose you have a problem where a portion of the building collapses or a fire starts or something that, and it endangers lives. Well, that's to me, that's criminal right there.
Right. But like, so the thought process is really different. Sometimes when the person comes from this county, from the place where people always use bribe to get a job, to get things done, to get something they want to go up to, whatever that, even education or something. So when they come from those area with those, then they have a wrong thought process, to get things done.
Exactly.
Right? So when they come, to the U.S., you gotta be very careful, because this is important, very important. We do things right. How about when people give a gift, just like a gift to the officer? Is that considered a bribe?
The officer should not accept it. It's because of it creates a sense of impropriety.
But is that like they should not accept it, but is the officer will say, "Oh, are you bribing me?"
It could be perceived as that.
Oh,
and or it could be perceived that officer now feels like he needs to do something, owes you a favor. And most people that I know, they that are in government, they do their best to just remain as impartial as they can, and to avoid those situations in their entirety. There are occasions where you can give public servants gifts. Generally speaking, it's not a high value item.
Yeah.
But it's something, maybe a recognition. Maybe a plaque or something like that. Something.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, but not like a water bottle or anything like that. That's called right. That's just like an offer, right?
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. I know that there's restaurants that sometimes offer government discounts to police, fire, those types of things.
Yeah.
Those aren't necessarily considered bribes. But it's when an individual officer or fireman receives something of value that's of an outstanding nature, that's where it could become much more questionable. And generally speaking, I would say most officers, firemen, public officials, they do their best to avoid.
They do the right things,
try to avoid getting caught in those positions of impropriety.
Right.
Let's face it, any of that stuff that you do wrong, you do it frequently enough, you're going to get caught.
Yeah, that's true. Like, people want to get the things go rolling easier. That's why, because sometimes like with the mistake, with the error or something that corrected already, but in order like they keep getting more trouble and something else, or not, like, so they were thinking like, oh, why is that? Maybe we need to do something so he like it, and then he can just bypass or whatever,
right?
But that's not something like that we should think in this U.S. in this country.
On occasion, you end up in a situation where you're probably in a good position if you go and lobby the local government. For example, mayors, city council members, county supervisors, those types of people. They're at the top of the government for that entity. And they're there for several reasons. They're there obviously because they're handling budgetary issues, but they're also there because they're looking at and creating vision for how that city or that county is going to grow. What is the nature of that county or that city over years? There are some cities here in the valley that they're into having secondary education. There's others that they want to be sports centers. There's others where they want to have high-tech industries, and that's how they want to be known. So they actively look for ways to bring in those types of activities that give a flair to that city or county. Those are the types of people that you can talk to, is those city council members, because if it's in the interest and in the long-term vision of the cities, they can help you smooth out some of the roads to go through development services, planning and zoning, building safety, those types of things. So that to me is more the right way of going about it. But to try to approach the individual employee who's working in one of those departments, no, that's not a good way to do
Not
it.
a gift certificate, no, nothing.
No.
Yeah.
They have a job to do, and
Any
they're
government
competent.
job you deal with government, even like housing or anything, with
Sure.
with the government, right?
Yep.
Yeah, shouldn't go that route.
I mean, if you want to thank somebody and give them a Starbucks card, that's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, but think about it as far as what kind of value. It might be an entirely different thing if you started giving them, $500 of Ruth Chris Steakhouse gift certificate.
That's true. Yeah. So we have to think about that, and that's a good point. Like that viewer bring to our attention, and just a simple question: it's a heavy crime. You see,
It can be. It certainly can be.
It is. So even small or large, whatever that is, if you have that thought in your mind when come to any violation or anything come across for the investment, then that's we have to avoid that. We do the right thing, and we will earn the right thing. We will have the right thing.
That's right, and you don't have to look over your shoulder.
Right. Okay. So you have, I think, like anything we can cover a little bit here, because we can come back next time for them.
Okay.
For something, but I think they are really interested into beside the investment here, different type of investment and all that, but the law and everything, that's also very important too, because I think they concern more about.
Well, and I understand that, because when you get involved in real estate,
yes,
you have real estate law. You deal with a realtor. What's kind of unusual is realtors. Years ago, the Arizona legislature carved out a niche for real estate salespeople. Who writes most contracts? Attorneys. Attorneys write most contracts, but real estate salespeople were given a limited scope, and they are allowed to write contracts on real estate purchases and leases.
The experience for the area,
yes,
right? Particularly.
But it's a very narrow focus that they can do. And so, one of the things I get questions about different things, and I cannot give advice. I mean, I can't tell you exactly how to do something legally, but I can tell you this is a matter where I would talk to an attorney or I would talk to a tax professional. Right. It was like your question about on the folks that are doing fix and flips. My recommendation is talk to a tax professional so that you can get a business set up so that you can handle your expenses and your profits and everything without having to pay a lot of extra taxes. But those are the types of people that you need to see. And so that's one area where I'm not authorized to provide advice.
Okay. I mean, like they just need to hear, what you say about it. Of course, the decision will be on them. And if any individual situation will be different. When we talk about this one, it's only in general. What it is the key point, the things that need to know and focus. But there's detail in there that for each individual situation will be different.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
So, always seek out to somebody with knowledge. That's what the best. And well, thank you so much, Mr. Scott Barlowe. He always find things to help out with any of the investment situation, or even he get involved with like violation, all the cases and all that he bring out to our attention. And every time he will just come and then reply, answer the question, or like give out an idea, all that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
For that. And we'll stop here, and next time we'll see you guys again. See Mr. Scott Barlowe. We'll have more interesting things to cover for next week. Thank you for watching us. Vaatv.com.
Xin kính chào, tạm biệt và xin hẹn gặp lại quý vị vào lần phát hình kỳ tới. Mọi chi tiết về thông tin thương mại và bảo trợ, xin mời quý vị hãy liên lạc về địa chỉ email vaatelevision@gmail.com và số điện thoại là 480 289 9816 480 289 9816. 1616, website vaatv.com và vaaznews.com.